Today on the Authentic Brand Builders podcast, we are going to talk all about advertising. Now, if you're anything like me, you might be a little skeptical about putting your money behind some ads in the hope, cross your fingers, that you will actually make money in return. And I know there are a lot of preconceived ideas around advertising. Maybe you've even dipped your toe in the advertising world and didn't get the results that you had hoped for. As someone who has advertised over the years, both on Meta and on Pinterest and Google Ads, I can tell you that there is a way to use advertising to your benefit to grow your business and increase your revenue. So I knew I wanted to bring in an expert to talk about this exact same thing. So my guest today, Kwadwo, is a Meta Ads expert, and he specializes in not only helping business owners set up their ad accounts and optimize them, but also takes it a step further and helps you optimize your funnel. I am so excited to have him on the podcast because he also hosts his own show. And let me tell you, you could tell the man has experience. His podcast, The Art of Online Business, has over 843 episodes and over 4 million downloads. And I am so excited because I will actually be a guest on his podcast in a few weeks where you can hear me talk about brand storytelling inside of funnels. At the end of the day, our goal with this conversation was to help you approach running ads in an authentic way, if that is something that you've been considering, and take away a lot of the mystery around what is needed to get started with running ads, how to show up as your most authentic self. And we talk some data nerd convo on increasing conversions, which I think you're really going to love. All of our links from today's episode are going to be on the Brandmerry podcast. So go to brandmerry.com so you can check out those show notes. We also will have everything linked in the YouTube description below. And that includes a freebie that is going to share with you the 7 biggest Facebook mistakes that you are definitely going to watch out for. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode.
This is the Authentic Brand Builders Podcast with Michelle Knight.
Kwadwo, thank you so much for joining me today to talk all about Facebook advertisement.
Yay. You're
I'm
welcome. It's an honor to be here, Michelle.
We just spent a couple, not even a couple, 15 minutes really getting to know each other. I'm so excited for you to not only share your story, but to kind of take away a little bit of the stress around advertising that I think my audience, and sometimes honestly myself as well, feel when it
Yeah.
comes to advertising. However, I know you haven't always been in this niche. So I would love to kick it off with you sharing a bit about your story and the journey that led you to being a Facebook ads expert.
Okay. Well, I'm going to compact this crazy story. Let's go back to when my wife and I were sitting in the capital of Beijing in the central business district among the tall buildings inside of a Middle Eastern restaurant. Specifically, we were people watching over like the strip and eating wonderful naan and dipping it in hummus. And it's so tasty, right? And so what happens next is something I'm super used to, but my wife had never experienced it before. So next to us, like 2 tables down, there's like 2 Russian girls and they spot me and they start giggling. And I hear them, I look and I know what's coming. And so like I kind of nudge my wife and lo and behold, in a few moments, they come over with their cell phones out and they want to take a picture with me. And they say, "Hi, like you're that elementary Chinese guy." And so here's what like I'll cut and say that I haven't been in this industry. I only started being in Facebook and Instagram ad manager, so to speak, and like a coach for online course creators in 2020. But this memory comes from 2018 when I was growing my previous business with Facebook ads the wrong way. And these girls recognized me because I was boosting Instagram posts. I know, right? Cardinal sin. It got me famous, like 30,000-ish followers on Instagram back in 2018. Not a huge account, but I felt like a B level, like a B-lister in
Mhm.
Hollywood because 3, 4, sometimes 5 out of like the 10 expats that would see me in China would recognize me because my face teaching Mandarin Chinese was all over their iPads and iPhones and Androids. And so we took the picture, and took the selfie, and I introduced them or these 2 Russian girls to my wife. And that business was growing wonderfully well until we took a vacation, marvelously timed, January 13th, 2020, with one check-in luggage and our two kids. One was 10 months and the other was 3 years old at the time. And we came to Mexico because my wife also speaks fluent Spanish. And we were speaking to our kids. I was speaking Mandarin to our kids. We had like a Chinese nanny. My wife started speaking Spanish to them, and I wanted to get in on it. So we went to Mexico. All the news of the pandemic broke out shortly thereafter. We decided to quarantine because why not? China quarantine was a little worse, like, than Mexican, and even in the States, US quarantine, like, we're talking 1 member per family per week could leave,
Mm.
and even less so than that in certain cities, and so it was bad, and we stayed in Mexico, but China shut down the borders, and we waited longer until we couldn't wait because we had to get rid of our place. So 12 years in China, and that place was gone. Uh, Imagine hopping on FaceTime with your friends, and they're going through, and you're looking through the little screen, like in your not so clean apartment, and they're going through everything, even that drawer. You know the drawer in your room, right? They're going through that drawer too, and getting all your stuff, and you have like 6 luggages, and so that was our story. We got our 6 luggages, reunited with them like a year and a half ish later, and I had to shut down the business. But how I started managing Facebook and Instagram ads, and now like I'm dedicated to helping online course creators and coaches and service providers do the same the right way, not just to get famous, because I mean, Michelle, right? Like if all the people that follow you on Instagram turn into customers, I mean, hello, let's do
That's
it,
great.
right?
Yeah, right.
If only, if
If
only.
only. If only the conversion rates were 100%.
Oh, I know. Like, shoot, let's figure that out. But I help people do that now because I had zero prospects for life. Like my life, like we were talking before, we were in Mexico. We had to leave because our tourist visas expired. I'm in my in-laws' basement, like literally every morning, walking figure eights and praying in the basement and crying, and no job, no nothing. And I started coaching in the same high-level mastermind that I was in before with my previous business. I'm now coaching in that business part-time. Like, thankfully, the guy offered me a job, and then I picked up another part-time job managing Facebook ads for an agency. I feel like I just said a swear word, but I was
Okay,
working in an
that's
agency.
because we talked before about agencies.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of stories out there, and we're here to turn that around. It's like just me and my wife manage Facebook ads, and yeah, fast forward now, and I have a business doing the same, like funnel analytics, helping folks get a good funnel that converts great leads into great customers, and I run ads for them too.
I love that. Oh, your story. There's so much more here. I know because I got to speak with you earlier, but
Whatever you want to dive into, whatever.
I mean, why Facebook ads? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's my question. Like, what really drew you to it? You had your business, and
Yeah.
that was obviously no longer an opportunity, and you kind of, I don't want to say fell, because you definitely took action steps to get these part-time jobs and these different things, but like what really got you to fall in love with advertising and Facebook ads specifically?
So I could have gone either way because of the coaching experience I had. I had been looking at sales and marketing and sales pages and opt-in pages and funnels and all this, right, for established online course creators. And when it came time to start my business, I just had to choose because I didn't want to focus on both and thus
Mhm.
reduce my chances of succeeding in either. And the reason I chose Facebook ads actually was just really practical. Inside the agency that I was working at, I had seen Facebook ads just do great things for their clients. And then, of course, being on the coaching and consulting side in the mastermind, I also was looking at not huge businesses, but usually in between like 500K annual revenue and like 1.3-ish annual revenue. So coaching them, I could see from the outside too that they had Facebook ads. Most of them did,
Mhm.
um, as a significant part of providing leads for their launches or whatever other conversion event challenges. Some were just selling repeatedly every month to their email list. And so, like, I knew the ads worked great, and I had had the ads work great because I was running ads for
Mhm.
folks. And so it came down to marketing. Like being an online coach for me at the time was a little more difficult to market, but Facebook ads it was very easy to explain to somebody and sell the benefit. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, this kind of bleeds into maybe a question you'll ask me, which is like, what are the signs that a business should run Facebook ads? We don't have to go there, but
Oh, we're going there.
we're going there.
We're
Okay,
going
cool.
there.
Well, I won't jump the gun, but that's why I chose. It was a very practical choice, and I chose
Mm.
Facebook ads. And
I love that. And I think too, we talked a little bit beforehand, and obviously my listeners, I'm calling this authentic advertising. That's what we're doing here because
cool.
I think a huge thing that my audience struggles with is feeling disconnected with their advertising. Like we see a lot of playbooks, we see a lot of templates, we see a lot of these things, and we implement them. Or I myself have worked with an agency that will not be named, and
Uh,
there was a lot of pushback on the copy. I felt like it was not authentic to me, but they were telling me, oh, these things are the things that you need to sell. So there, I think for a lot of people, there's a bit of a sour taste in their mouth, around advertising. So before we get into like when's the right time, how do we scale up? Can you tell us why you love them and like maybe what you've seen from your experience on how they can transform businesses? Even like many of my clients are integrating up to six figures, right?
yeah.
So not even at the 500K, that you mentioned, but really in the kind of building foundational stage up to six figures. Like what's possible for them? Like I'd love to talk about that piece first.
Okay. Here's a disclaimer. I'm just some random black guy who's a Facebook ad manager on the internet, right? And you can't just trust random people, though I have experience and I will share it. Like, don't take anything that I'm saying for gospel. I just always have to say that. But speaking from my personal experience, running ads for the past like 3.5 years, 4 years now. Oh, geez,
Mhm.
4 years. And every time I look at these cute pictures of my kids, I'm like, they're not babies anymore. You have an
No.
8-year-old. You have an 8-year-old too, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. Um, here's what's possible. The online business owner, the course creator, the service provider, the membership owner, right? Um, they end up reaching a point where their offer is selling, their business is growing, but for most of us, we don't have like this phenomenal reach on Instagram,
Mhm.
or we've even been on platforms where the platform is shut down, or the algorithm, just like on Instagram or on YouTube, change dramatically. But like we're at the point where our business is really big, and sometimes pivoting isn't so easy. It should be, it pays to be adaptable, but like once you start bringing in 150, 200,000 like dollars a year, 300 and up, you have the system that's working, and the social media platforms just they can wreak havoc sometimes.
Mhm.
And so why I love Facebook and Instagram ads is because they're not pay to play, as in the more you spend, the more reach you get. They are a great way to add fuel to the already burning fire, your offer that's working well. They're a great way to expand the reach of your business, but not casually so. Like
Mm.
on Instagram, for example, you might have a reel that hits, and everybody wants that, and they want the organic reach. But the thing is that Instagram is pushing the content out to people who it thinks will interact with your account the best. It's not taking into consideration who would convert into a free lead magnet offer or go into
Mhm.
like a discovery call, like services type funnel the best. It's just looking for interaction. And so while we can control that growth for sure, to an extent, with good messaging, with consistent like videos and content that focus on our area of expertise, speaking in a way which people like understand their need for what we have, still Instagram will show it, and so will YouTube, to so many other folks too. But with ads, you can very much in a targeted way put your message or your lead magnet or your launch event in front of the right people. And it does take skill.
Mhm.
And you can definitely, like anything that takes skill, if you're not doing it with all the skill required, it can go wrong. But it does afford you that opportunity to get your content to the people who actually need it, which means as long as your offer is already selling well, converting well, then you are in a fortunate place from a place of profit to serve more of the people who you were, meant to serve, like blessed with this gift and this passion to help out. That's why I like Facebook and Instagram ads.
Yeah, and you bring up like a really good point of like once it starts working, and I love data. I'm obsessed with data. And so
Mhm.
like it's really a numbers game, right? Like if you know that something's working, and obviously there's a lot of nuances in here. We're not going to say just keep throwing
Sure.
money at it, right? But you can almost say, oh, if I know if I spend this, you can see the ROI, and it makes it a really great predictable way to kind of grow your business. And you're really speaking our language here at Brandmerry when you're talking about getting in front of the right people. This is why we love SEO here, because
Oh, geez, yeah.
targeting, right? So, okay, I would love to kind of go back to what you had mentioned before. I think this is a great entry into how do you know it's time to start running Facebook and Instagram ads?
How do you know,
How
right?
do you know? Because it's not just like you wake up one day and you're like, this sounds like a great idea.
Right?
There are a couple
Right?
pieces.
Well, if you do wake up and it sounds like a great idea, it's probably not, and the reason it sounds like a great idea is probably because Instagram has those
Mhm.
wonderful buttons, and they say, "Your post is reaching more people, like, than other posts. Go ahead and boost this post." It's like, "Please, friend, don't fall into that temptation and boost your Instagram post."
Yeah.
Um, Here's the signs, because, like, I do believe that if you're reading the signs right, great. I always say, like, Jesus saves. Facebook and Instagram ads do not, meaning that more eyeballs on a bad offer does not a good business make. So,
Mhm.
however, someone is selling the offer right now, like it could be you're posting on Instagram stories and the funnel is getting people to DM you where you have a DM conversation that leads to a discovery call. Could be that you have a lower ticket offer that is being sold on like a monthly basis to your new leads that you're bringing in, however, usually with a lead magnet. Could be you're doing the stereotypical launch 3, 4 times a year. But
Mhm.
however you're selling, the biggest sign is that your offer is selling and then that it's doing so profitably. Like pretty much you can bank on it, right?
Mhm.
And so what I usually advise, like just kind of bird's eye view, if you will, without getting into the details, is look at your conversion event and look at how much money you make. So launches are easy to talk about. How much money do I make each launch? Better if I've launched a few times, right? And then each time I launched and I made, say, $50,000, decent launch, how many leads did I have register for that launch? I take my revenue, I divide it by the number of leads, and I get this number. Let's just call it $50. That tells me my leads are worth $50.
Mhm.
If somebody's listening and they're more like a service provider, then let's look at how they normally bring in their leads. Maybe they do post on stories, or maybe they have a discovery call form because they have a great YouTube channel. Either way, we want to look at how many story posts does it take to get how many DMs, does it take to get how many calls, does it take to get how much revenue, and we want to back that money up so we know that like posting on stories one time is worth about this much, so to speak. But if we know that our leads are worth a certain amount, that's the beginning of this whole Facebook ads equation. Will or will it not work for me? Because if the
Mm.
whole game is leads are worth, say, $50 to our business, then we can come in and know that if we have to pay for a lead with Facebook ads, a cold lead won't be worth as much as a warm lead. But let's just say that we're paying like $5 to $7 per lead. Well, then game on, because we
Yeah.
know that reliably we can convert those leads. I always feel like these sales and marketing terms are so cold. But we get the opportunity to work with a lead, and we only paid $7 for a lead. We
Right.
made $50. That gap is wonderful, but that gap has to be there. If it's not there, it's not worth running Facebook ads, and that's where somebody should start.
I love that you talk about like really knowing the business and like really understanding like how much does it cost to get, X lead, because then like you said, spending $7 or even $10, or I'm going to even argue $15 when like that the profit is there, or whatever it is there, like it's not as scary. So I think that this brings up something that I see all the time online, which
Okay.
is, okay, well, you need to get in front of new people. You're just starting out as a business. You should just run ads to a freebie to start, building it.
Mm.
Talk to me about that, because I see that a lot, and then people will come to me and they say, "Oh, I tried running ads. I spent, a couple $1,000s on ads just out of the gate," and they don't even really have an organic marketing strategy in play. They're just kind of like defaulting to ads, solving all the problems.
Right. But I guess that so I coach folks how to do ads one-on-one too. And if somebody wants to coach with me, that's one of the things, it's like one of my first questions.
Yeah.
Tell me about your offer and how well it converts. And my heart goes out to folks who hear run ads to a lead magnet, because running ads to a lead magnet, like it works, Michelle. But if there's an email list of 10,000 people, you don't have anything to sell, then why do we spend all the money to get leads on the email list? And that's the biggest issue is either, like, I've met people who have run ads and built up their email list with nothing really ready to sell yet. And I've also met folks who have something to sell, but they just in their business haven't connected the dots to a solid funnel. Like
Mhm.
when a lead gets on the email list, how are we nurturing those leads? Are we doing it in a way that establishes our authority, that in a non-triggering way helps the lead to understand, like, this lead magnet helped you very specifically and you have a win, but the bigger problem you're probably here for is it's aligned with my core offer, yes, but it's this, this, and this, and you have these needs. um, that funnel homework, if you will, sometimes isn't done as well. Many times isn't done as well as it should be, because it's hard. It's not overnight work. It takes there's this quote from Thomas Edison that a lot of us miss out on opportunity because it's dressed in overalls and it looks like work. And I want more people to do that. That way they get a chance to serve more folks. Does that kind of answer what you were getting at?
Absolutely,
Take
absolutely.
take this
I
wherever you want to go.
I think, well, I think the whole kind of point I'm trying to, kind of touch on and bring out as well is it's not as easy as just turning on an ad. And I think a
Mhm.
lot of people are misled, I will argue, into thinking that, like, well, if I spend $500, I'll get all of these leads. And then, of course, that will translate to an offer, whether I have it now or not. And there is this element of data that you're talking about that is so important, and knowledge about your business, and proof, I would argue, that's going to make that process easier. And you know what, I might or may not be speaking from experience from my first 3 months as a business owner in 2016, when all of my mentors were like, you have a freebie, now just run ads to that freebie.
Hmm.
So I'm glad we're talking about that, because that's something that does come up so often with my audience. And I know something that's playing kind of in the back of their head. So you mentioned how to signs to get started. Now, another thing I know that you are an expert in, and I have it written down, it's your Olympic gold medal testing framework
Oh,
on
okay.
how to lower ad cost. You don't have to give the whole framework away unless you absolutely want to, but I would be curious to know, like, what are some of the things that you are seeing working today to lower ad costs for your clients?
This framework sounds really cool, but it honestly is just basic testing. And that is what works the best. I can share a big shift that I've, like, kind of walked clients through this year,
Yeah.
because we're in something, I didn't coin the term, but we're in a trust recession. It's 2024, lots of uncertainty. Interest rates were really high, still pretty high. We got two potential presidents coming in that not everybody really likes, all this stuff. So, plus, it's been a good moment since 2020, and with so many folks coming in to educate in the online
Mhm.
space, like the consumer, the buyer, the people that we want to help is more savvy and a little bit more reserved with their trust because they've been marketed to, and some of them have experienced less than stellar service and product. So there's the context.
Mhm.
Geez, what's been working is just testing. So that Olympic gold medal framework, it's just like track and field. This Summer Olympics, there was what was it? Noah Lyles of the U.S. and Kashane Thompson from Jamaica competing for the fastest man in the world. And if you look at those heats in the track and field event going up to the finals, first you got a ton of people, and then two people advance from each round. I'm oversimplifying a little bit, but the winners keep advancing until the ultimate winners compete. And the same way in this framework is you start with ad copy that focuses on several different frustrations or pain points, and you really are just testing those. And that's the only variable that's different. You pick a visual, you test your different ad copy, and after a
Mhm.
handful of days, you know which ad copy is resonating the best. And then you go through the next round, which is taking your best resonating ad copy and testing that by combining it with several different visuals. Maybe you end up testing 5 different visuals. And now you've got the best converting ad copy that you've tested out of 3, paired with, say, 3 different visuals that are converting pretty well for you. And then you test the various audience targeting and you keep going. And I'm kind of breezing through this framework, but it's just a methodical way to arrive at the language that's speaking the best to your ideal audience, your potential customers, with visuals that are communicating the best. And the concept here, in a simple sentence, is you're testing through the 20 so that you can get to the one ad that outperforms the 19. And eventually you're testing through the 50 to get to that one ad that outperforms the 49. And again, it's work,
Mhm.
but once you get to that 1 in 20 ad, those results are good. And once you get to that 1 in 50, those results are way, way better. It's that's the Olympic gold medal testing framework, and that's what
Uh,
we do.
I like it. And honestly, as someone who I've been in the space, for 8 years. I've seen I was here in the 2020 advertising boom where ad costs were $1 and we were converting like crazy. I've seen it. Um, but you bring up something that I have not heard a lot of people talk about, and that is
Oh,
testing one element at a time
mm,
rather than testing a bunch of images with a bunch of different copy. And I know, obviously, being behind the scenes, having run Facebook ads, Facebook even came out with the dynamic creative, right? Where you could really kind of test all of those pieces at once. So that's really interesting. I personally love it because I love simplicity and I love doing this and then this and then this. And it sounds like your clients are getting results from that testing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You bring up a great thing, dynamic creative, and I'll take dynamic creative. And so for the uninformed listener who has yet to experience that word, all that means is you throw 10 pieces of ad copy and 10 pieces of ad creative and 10 pieces of headline all bunched in one ad set to Meta, and then Meta on the fly, according to their algorithm, that collects 52,000 pieces of data points on every user, which is kind of scary.
It's
But
terrifying.
they end up showing the pieces, the individual components of that ad mixed up as they choose. Mixed up is not the best word, but in different combinations as they choose in order to get good performance. And like Michelle, that is a great strategy. But what I do is I test that once I've tested the individual components. Like I definitely will test dynamic creative to see if it outperforms, but it's just one testing element.
Yes.
As are all of those other recommendations that METHO can give. That's another testing element. And so as long as you just think of those as next iterations to like test to see which is the winner, you can't go wrong. You will find the best way that's working for your ads.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. So testing. So here's another thing that comes up. Advertising, long game,
Mm,
right? Agree? Yes, no?
mm.
Okay. How long do you typically recommend your clients or anyone that you're coaching commit to an ad strategy to get the data that they ultimately need?
Testing for me for my clients takes like 3 weeks. We kind of look at business quarters, right? And quarter
Mhm.
has 3 months. I would tell anyone if you're going to start Facebook ads, yes, from a point of profit first, but also be willing to spend 1 month. Um, People are like, what's the minimum ad spend? That can depend. I like to start with $30 a day because that allows me to test on my client's behalf and not take forever to test, but it's
Right.
also not something that breaks the budget if there's already a profitable offer in place. So, to get data, 3 weeks to a month, and you should have very solid data because enough people have opted into the lead magnet or the launch. Hopefully we're doing testing with a lead magnet before it's high stakes
Yes,
launch
right.
time. Yeah. But yeah, you want people to opt in on the lead magnet, but then it's not just Facebook ads. That's the top of the funnel. The next step is you got enough leads coming through your opt-in page to look at it and decide, is it on point? Like, are we having 30% opt-ins, to cold traffic? And then are we, according to opt-in page science, best practices, switching things around on that page, making sure all of our buttons are a different color than the other
Yes.
colors on the page? Like, I know you know it.
Speaking my
And then,
language.
yeah, because it's the real stuff, it's the
Mhm.
funnel. And then emails too, looking at open rates, looking at click-through rates. Yeah, a month. And then we got enough data.
I love that. I also love that you are still holding true to the 30% conversion to a cold audience, because I think we should be holding that as a standard. I have heard a lot of people who have dropped it over the years to 15,
Oh,
20% a cold audience. No,
uh,
we hold a very standard 30% here at Brandmerry as well.
thank you. Thank you.
To
Thank
a
you.
cold audience, higher, obviously, if they know you and love you already. So that's a breath of fresh air to hear. And also, I think just attest to, like, you really do want to deliver the best results for your clients and get them the best. That's why we test, right? It's not just to spend money willy-nilly, it's to play that longer game and to really get the results that they ultimately want.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's say someone started, they've identified, I have an offer, this is, what it costs me per lead. This is essentially my ROI. They're in the game now, they're doing it. How do they know when it's time to scale their ads?
Mm.
Because I think I've gone back and forth. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I scaled too fast. And I've done it before. And I was like, ooh, we waited way too long to scale. So what's kind of the sweet spot that you look for?
And if you get this right, it just means more revenue in your business and whatever, because none of us started business just to be on the hamster wheel, to
No.
be working way more than we were working in the 9 to 5. Let's be honest, right? Like, we started business for various reasons. Like, you and I connect on the whole travel thing. Like, you guys having traveled so many spots, and my wife and I, not we haven't actually traveled many spots. We've just lived in different areas of the world. You're way more well traveled than I, but we all have this desire. And once we can scale ads right on a profitable offer, it really is like magic with the business. So some of the signs, um, you can scale ads when we see a profitable, let's say, ROAS, return on ad spend. And it's a lot easier to measure if your leads are coming in and you have like this conversion event, like a launch, pretty soon, every 3 months, then my leads are sitting on the email list not that long before they come into the launch. And the reason, like, I know there's profits because I know how well the launch converts. I know how much each lead is worth for that launch. Another way that you can tell well, that's actually the primarily way, but another shortcut to that is if somebody, say, doesn't launch so frequently, then it could be a great time for them to put, say, a tripwire, which I like to call welcome offer, on the
Mhm.
thank you page of that lead magnet. And as long as that welcome offer is aligned between the lead magnet and the core offer, whatever's being sold during the launch or monthly on the email list, then the course creator, the service provider, can recoup some of that ad spend, can make some of their money back right away. But specifically, you talked about scaling. So a mistake I see is when there is profitable, like ROAS, return on ad spend, which just means above 1 is the number inside of Facebook Ad Manager.
Mhm.
I see folks scale too quickly. I would scale conservatively at 15% a day, as in
Mm.
increase your ad spend by 15%. If you're managing, this is technical, sorry. If
I
you're
like it.
managing if you're managing ads at the ad set level, as in you're setting your budget at the ad set level, you can scale 15% a day and not upset the algorithm, which
Mm.
it's like, does the algorithm have emotions?
I think so at this point in time.
It's a finicky friend. So when you upset the algorithm, because your lead costs start to skyrocket, um,
Mm.
and just things go wonky. They weren't working like they were before. However, if you need to scale quicker because you're like raking in the cash, so to speak, you can always take an ad set, you can duplicate it set that new one up to go live early the next morning, as long as it's a day during the week, and then set that new budget at a
Mhm.
much higher amount. But that's a big mistake that I see being made is somebody loves the return on an ad spend that they're getting, maybe they're getting 2x, and then they just double their ad budget, and it
Right.
kills the results like almost immediately the next day. And they're like, "What happened?" That's what happened. You can't scale too quick.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, I think that's universal, right? I run Pinterest ads. I love Pinterest. That's a
Yeah.
platform that I
Okay.
talk about all the time. And same Z's there. Like you could have something
Mm.
working really well for you. You think, oh, I'll just double my budget. And then suddenly it's like, so I love that you shared a very tangible way to scale quickly, as well as the 15%. Like that's something we can all commit to memory,
Sure.
when
Yeah.
it's time. But also all these indicators so that someone can ask themselves, like, what is the ROAS? And now everyone knows. You broke it down. I love that. So I know one of the things that you are gifting my audience is going to be mistakes, Facebook ad mistakes.
Mhm.
And we have that. We'll link that in the show notes, everyone. But could you share with us maybe like the top one or two that you see entrepreneurs making, and then they get a little teaser, and then they can jump into the full guide for the full seven?
Sure. And that guide with so much lead magnet fluff out there, like I have to talk about that guide super quick and just say
Mhm.
it's not just like a PDF list of mistakes. This is me inside of Facebook Meta Ad Manager pointing out the mistakes that I've seen because I've coached a lot of people one on one, and then showing how to undo that mistake or how to do the right thing. So it really does help.
Love it.
Um, Top mistake is, well, we've already talked about that. Coming from a place of lack where there's not profit yet, or we don't have a proven like profit model,
Mhm.
right? Inside of Facebook Ad Manager, though, here's a really easy mistake: not setting up your Facebook pixel the right way. Big mistake, and it happens so often.
Uh-huh.
But that allows Facebook and Instagram, Meta, if you will, to collect the right data for the people that are working well with your business. And if that's set up wrong or not completely, then they don't have the data, which means that your leads are not optimized. Like that's a big mistake. Here's another mistake because we already talked about not going through testing, so I won't say that. But another mistake that I see is accepting the suggestions that Meta makes to you
Mhm.
as gospel. Please don't do that. Like Meta, they're trying. And I know like in Pinterest world, Pinterest is pretty good about it, right? Like they'll make suggestions and you can take them and it usually helps your ad performance.
Sometimes they have a new feature now that's like, you should promote this ad, and then they don't put the proper targeting in place. And so it's just doing what
Mhm.
you said, right? So it's really getting those people like boosted posts essentially were,
Oh
and
no.
it's
Okay.
getting people who are like, oh, I don't have a ton to spend, but Pinterest is offering this, and they're taking it as gospel, like you said. So I think it's
Right.
true for every platform.
Right. So the way around that is some of those suggestions work, some of them are trash. Sorry, Meta, but that's just how it is as like an ad manager. So what you do is because we all would want to be proactively lazy. Me too, right?
Yeah.
Like I like a suggestion. I like a good insider tip from a friend. But inside of Meta Ads Manager, test the suggestion. So if they say do this and it will reduce your lead costs or whatever they say, um, keep whatever ads you had on working and then just have another ad set running that takes a suggestion from Meta. If that is like way high over your budget, then reduce the budget in each ad set and let both run side by side for a handful of days. See if what Meta said is working out. If it is, wonderful. Turn off your original thing, ad set, with your ads, and just keep Metas on and then scale it up conservatively by 15 cents. Like that is a very measured approach. And to borrow the cliche phrase, you would be surprised how many folks like on a coaching call be like, Quajo. And I'm like, oh no. They're like, I just did this and the results taked. I'm like, well, what taked exactly? Because you should have been following my steps. They're like, well,
Uh-huh.
I wanted to scale, and as soon as I duplicated the ad set, like you said, Meta said if I turn this, this, and this on, that it would be great. And so I did it, and now my sales at like they went to zero. I'm like,
Right,
sorry,
right,
I
right.
told you not to do that. So that's a big one right there. Just be careful and test everything and anything that Meta suggests. Yeah.
Yeah, ooh, that's a good one. And I also just wanted to like do a special shout out for like a freebie that is incredibly valuable. We love value here.
Right.
Giving very valuable. I try and push my clients all the time to give value, build trust, and I'm
Oh.
excited. I mean, I'm going to download your freebie because I always
Oh.
love it. And also, you brought up something that I think I'd love to just kind of touch on too, to kind of wrap it all up when we're talking about this trust era of marketing.
Mm.
This is something I'm such a big component of storytelling because I think it just holds such a beautiful way to build trust quickly with your audience. We obviously love authenticity here. So I love that you drew attention to that. Are there any little strategies or shifts or changes that you're working on with your clients now that are helping build trust with cold audiences, whether it's a freebie, video, anything like that?
Yes. Which thank you for reminding me. I did say that I would share a shift, and that just is going back to basics. What we're not seeing right now is showing ads to cold audiences for a launch and before, like in 2020, the latest heyday when you could
Mhm.
bring somebody cold into a launch. Like now we're seeing folks sit through one or two or even three launches before converting. And so what's working is cold audience with Facebook ads, Instagram ads too, to a lead magnet that has a funnel that builds
Mhm.
your trust and authority. So, one quick tip, make sure that funnel clearly says how to work with you, but also make sure in those emails are some case studies, not
Mhm.
just Michelle is great, rah, rah, rah. But I worked with Michelle. I had this problem. I had this hesitancy, I just wasn't sure, but I went in and I got this specific result. Like those kind of things build trust. And also, a very simple way to build trust is, and it's low cost, is take video that's already working organically. The longer the better, although we love an entertaining Instagram reel, like 15 seconds doesn't build trust. But if you start to extend that to like 2 minutes, or you
Mhm.
just take a regular educational video from YouTube or something that's working, very low ad spend, and you show that to folks first, and then you retarget them with lead magnet. They have seen the value you can provide. Some of them have followed you on your social media at this point now, and that trust is already being built a little more. But it still comes down to the classic email funnel. Like,
Mhm.
can't get rid of that email funnel, and that is where true trust is built.
And I love that you talked about case studies. We love that. It's a storytelling component. I teach so much here and not just popping up two sentences and a picture, but actually telling the story, like you said, of like how they were feeling before investing, the results that they got. Perfect golden opportunity for storytelling and
Yeah.
storytelling in a funnel. That's like the best combo, I
I
think.
love that you are about storytelling because I heard somebody asking about it, and they brought up an objection that I just shot down in a nice way because they're like, "Well, if I tell a story, what if I'm telling a story and it doesn't resonate like with that person because I'm telling one story and it." But I was like, hello. When somebody hears a story, like you're telling people how to tell stories, Michelle, even if it's not about them, because of the detail, their brain automatically like thinks of a story that relates to them, maybe with a similar challenge. Like our brains are wonderful at doing that. And so
Yep.
like I love that you teach storytelling. More people need to do it, especially in the form of a case study. That does matter a lot.
Yeah, that neural coupling. That's what you're talking
Yeah.
about. I
Neural
love it.
coupling.
There it
All
is.
right. There's a real term, right?
Yeah,
I knew
yeah.
there's a real term somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And this is something that we're always pushing with our clients as well and just like really encouraging them to focus on the trust. And so I just love that you're seeing this from an advertising perspective. Obviously, I'm seeing it on a very organic perspective. It doesn't matter how you're getting your leads. It doesn't matter where they're coming from or how you're marketing. You have to be focused on building trust because the market is different now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of us selling a lot of things and our consumers are getting information from all sides,
Mm.
that it is the trust, and more than anything it's that client retention, right? Not just the client acquisition but the client retention that is just so important. So thank you for sharing that. I love that came through our advertising talk today.
Mhm. You're welcome. Thanks for having me here too, by the
Yeah,
way.
it was a pleasure. I'm so glad that we connected. Is there anything else that you would like to share with my audience? Any golden nugget before we go? And also, where can they connect with you further?
They can connect with me on my podcast, The Art of Online Business, where we help online course creators, coaches, service providers with tips and tricks and strategies, of which you will be a guest very soon, sharing some good, juicy strategy. But we just deliver strategy and help them so they can scale up from, say, mid 5-figure months to high 6-figure years. It's The Art of Online Business. My wife, as you got to meet, though she's not on this episode, she's a co-host more and more, so she'll be there too. And that's where they can find out more. I love to connect on Instagram. If you could link that up in the description, it's
Absolutely.
yeah, Quayjo is how you phonetically kind of spell my name. And I am there. It is me. It's not somebody from my team. I leave audio messages. I like to meet people. And
Mm.
honestly, the last golden nugget is just try. You've listened to this episode. It really has been a very reliable blueprint towards success. Not everything, but solid foundation. And just try. It's worth it. And the nugget is just try, because I believe that you, me, the listener, we were blessed with a skill, something that we're passionate about, that other folks need. And we have this medium online to serve a lot more people. And once we get good at serving somebody and we get good at a funnel, we got to try Facebook ads, because it just expands our reach. And as long as we're doing it ethically and in a trustworthy way, everyone's benefiting. So love me.
Ooh, I love that. Thank you so much for just sharing your wisdom and your heart with us and your story. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited for everyone to connect with you and dip their toe into the advertising world. It doesn't have to be scary, especially when you have guidance from someone like yourself.
Agreed.
Thank,
It's been an honor. It's been an honor. Thank you.
thank you. I'll talk to you soon.